Well, it's a dangerous fight.
Yeah.
Because Joshua's going to try to make an example out of him, for sure.
And will.
I mean, Anthony Joshua's one of the biggest one-punch KO artists ever.
Yes.
I mean, he's a one-punch night guy.
Yeah.
Wade, if Jake Paul gets knocked out, will his career be over? Buddy, his life may be over if he gets knocked out by AJ, because that dude put Francis Ngannou flat on his back, and I had never seen Francis Ngannou hurt before. And again,
I don't think this is a proper. I don't think that I would ever consider having a debate about whether Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul is a proper fight between two bona fide champions. I think Jake Paul is someone that's creating a lot of opportunity for himself and using sport as the anchor for it. And will I watch it? No. And do I value it? No.
Joe Rogan cautions that Jake Paul is venturing into extremely dangerous territory by entertaining a fight with Anthony Joshua. He underscores that Joshua is an Olympic gold medalist and one of the most powerful punchers of his generation. Rogan believes Joshua would seize the opportunity to make an example out of Jake, aiming to put an end to his habit of calling out top-tier champions for big paydays. According to Rogan, the skill and power gap is so vast that the fight has the potential to end very badly for Jake.
If he beat Anthony Joshua, good Lord. I mean, that's a big if, right?
I mean,
Anthony Joshua,
I do not think,
Olympic gold medalist, former heavyweight champion of the world. What he did to Francis Ngannou, good Lord.
Yes.
Do you want that smoke?
Yeah, I just think it's all about the promotion or whatever. I have no idea what the actual motivation is for that fight's not competitive at all.
Well, it's a dangerous fight.
Yeah.
Because Joshua's going to try to make an example out of him, for sure.
And will.
I mean, Anthony Joshua's one of the biggest one-punch KO artists ever.
Yes.
I mean, he's a one-punch.
Wade Plemons, host of the Wade Concept podcast, strongly warns that Jake Paul has put himself at serious physical risk by taking on Anthony Joshua. He highlights the massive weight and strength gap. Jake walks around at roughly 90 kilograms, while Joshua fights at around 111 kilograms. Plemons stresses that there's a big difference between picking fights for entertainment and stepping into the ring with a seasoned heavyweight champion who also happens to be an Olympic gold medalist. He warns that a knockout from Joshua could have lasting, potentially life-altering consequences, arguing that this isn't just a mismatch. It's a genuine threat to Jake's health. Plemons believes that Jake's pursuit of a big payday is blinding him to the real dangers he faces in the ring.
in making this fight, one, yes, that's the former heavyweight champ. Why is he fighting Jake Paul? And two, why is Jake Paul putting his health and well-being on the line? Because someone asked me on Twitter, Wade, if Jake Paul gets knocked out, will his career be over? Buddy, his life may be over if he gets knocked out by AJ, because that dude put Francis Ngannou flat on his back, and I had never seen Francis Ngannou hurt before. And again, it's boxing, not MMA. Jake has a little more experience, but we're talking about a massive size difference. AJ's still relatively young and still relatively got something left in the tank, and he's only fought the world-class guys for the last 10 years. This would be Jake's not only hardest fight, most dangerous fight of his career. If Jake is doing this, it could signal the last one. I'm not even joking. This could signal Jake being like, I'm having one more of these and I'm out. Because where do you go from Anthony Joshua? We'll get into that part in a second, but the Netflix thing. We know that Anthony Joshua is an exclusive fighter to DAZN. Eddie Hearn has stated that multiple times. AJ, I'm pretty sure, even has a piece of DAZN. I could be wrong about that, but he signed a mega deal years ago with them. So for this fight to take place on Netflix would mean DAZN would say, you can have one of our biggest cash draws, and I may be in a revenue share thing, or maybe Netflix pays them some money, but you can have our biggest cash draw, and we don't have an affiliation with it. That seems a bit unrealistic. But having said that, this isn't a report from anybody in the camp. This is not MVP saying it. This is not Eddie Hearn saying it. This is Mike Coppinger, who I guess has talked to people in the camp, but an independent source saying that they are finalizing a deal. Not that they're in talks. They are finalizing a deal. So this is, again, we're talking 1 yard line, first and goal.
Boxing Kingdom reported on X that negotiations are underway for Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua to take place as a professional boxing match, not an exhibition. The bout would follow official Queensberry rules, confirming that discussions are serious and would involve full professional regulations. If finalized, the fight would feature sanctioned referees, official scoring, and standard protocols, underscoring the high stakes and real physical risk for both fighters. Rumors that the fight could happen in December have been spreading rapidly across the boxing world. However, Joshua's longtime promoter Eddie Hearn describes the reports as premature, noting that no formal contract had been signed and much of the coverage is speculative. In contrast, veteran MMA and boxing journalist Ariel Helwani argues that the widespread buzz suggests something is indeed happening behind the scenes. Helwani notes that when rumors gain this level of traction, they often point to a real event, potentially by the end of this year or early next. Despite Hearn's caution, Helwani believes a fight could be finalized sooner than many anticipate.
Joshua and Jake Paul are finalizing a deal for a heavyweight fight on Netflix in December in Miami. Sources tell Ring Magazine Paul steps up massively to fight the former heavyweight champion after his exhibition with Gervonta Davis was canceled. Major props to Paul. So there you have it. In the midst of all this, I did reach out to Eddie Hearn, as did Gareth, and he said, "We have spoken, but nothing close, and I doubt he would be so crazy." He being Jake. I then asked him, "Would you say this report is premature?" He said, "Absolutely." And then I said, "Can I attribute this to you?" And he said, "Yes." And so what do we make of this, guys? Do we think there's smoke to this fire? PT, what do you think? You think this is something that could actually happen? This would be within the next month, right? This would be sometime between now and probably December 19th or so, in that time frame. What do you think?
I think it's a huge fight. You know, I didn't expect this at all. Usually when Jake is in a fight, the odds feel like they're stacked very much in his favor. This is the complete opposite of that. I'd very much agree with Gareth A. Davies' take, which was I'd expect Joshua to obliterate him in a boxing match. I mean, look what Anthony Joshua did to Francis Ngannou before that Dubois fight. Like, I mean, it was a completely different affair than the Tyson Fury fight. I think, having heard Eddie Hearn's update and having looked at that tweet again, it feels like boxing's equivalent to the old in the works reporting that we used to see in MMA an awful lot, right? Like when we weren't quite sure, maybe one side had verified that this fight is happening, but you can't get the other side to commit, and it's in the works. It's a huge fight. The one thing I will say is, why would you want that out there? Why would the Ring report this? Why would someone give them that information if it wasn't going to happen? Now, because everything else pales in comparison to this, as far as I'm concerned. Every other fight that they had perspective or potential, I don't think it's as big as Anthony Joshua. So I don't know.
This isn't a ring fight, right? This isn't a ring fight. Anthony Joshua is tied to DAZN. Anthony Joshua has a relationship with Turki Al-Sheikh in Riyadh season.
MMA Fighting shared on Leon Edwards' reaction to the swirling rumors of potential Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight. Edwards joked that if Joshua doesn't knock Paul out in 1 or 2 rounds, the fight must be fixed. His comment underscores a vast gap in skill, power, and experience between the two fighters, implying that Joshua's dominance is expected, and any prolonged contest would be highly surprising. Edwards' perspective, coming from a top UFC welterweight champion, highlights just how serious and dangerous the matchup would be, while reflecting widespread skepticism about Paul's ability to handle Joshua's power.
This fight's in the works, Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul. As a Brit, how do you evaluate?
I've just seen that. Someone just told me about that. That's mad. Fair play to Jake Paul, first of all, for taking it. But if Asia doesn't knock him out in like 1-2 rounds, then I feel like the fight must be fixed or something, because I'm going to Anthony Joshua, obviously, for the KO. So yeah, when is it, you know?
It's going to be next month they're working towards.
Oh, yeah, sick. Yeah, I'm going AJ for the win.
Cheers.
Francis Ngannou, the former MMA heavyweight champion turned boxer, once faced Anthony Joshua and suffered a devastating knockout, showcasing that Joshua's power and heavyweight expertise are very real, not a fluke. Jake Paul had previously discussed a fight with Ngannou, which was already a bold proposition given Francis's dangerous reputation. Now, the conversation has shifted to Joshua, who arguably represents an even greater threat. Jake is now considering a fighter who not only knocked out Ngannou, but has repeatedly proven that his size, speed, and skill at heavyweight make him a formidable opponent. In essence, Jake is chasing someone who defeated one of the most dangerous heavyweights of recent times, a gamble with huge potential payoff but monumental risk. Earlier talks about a matchup with Ngannou ended when Francis publicly declined, calling the idea disrespectful and saying he wouldn't waste his time fighting a crossover boxer or influencer.
With Jake, and everything's wrong with Francis. He can go with Francis. So now all of a sudden you start satisfying both ends of this. Okay. So when that falls through, the rumor is that Francis and Jake are still in talks. Even though Francis did not come through on the event he was offered and the date he was offered, MVP and Netflix may be willing to reschedule everything and still make him part of it. And Francis' big statement was just, hey, this doesn't make sense. It's not what I'm looking for. Doesn't make sense. Okay. That's not my business. I can't be mad at Francis for that. That just cost Francis a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That just cost Francis life-changing money. I can't be mad. If I'm mad at Francis, then I got my way. He cut off his nose to spite his face. I can't be mad at him. He's already been punished. What good does it do me to be mad at him? All right. Well, then you bring in Joshua, and Joshua shows you how it's done. Right? Joshua and Francis are not remarkably comparable. I mean, not only did they box, they're not remarkably comparable, but in the world of boxing and just the accomplishments. I mean, you take Joshua Benson, Olympic finalist, for goodness sakes, right? Just like lifelong, very well known. Multiple generations of boxing ties. You know, go all the way back to Klitschko. Go all the way back. You couldn't go before Klitschko was there first, but you go all the way back to Klitschko. Anything that has ever happened in the sport of boxing says you can tie Joshua to, and he's a professional and above everything else, he's a real boxer. So if he is to say something makes sense, then it makes sense, right? If you have Joshua's opinion of does this make sense to, now none of us know what sense mean. We don't even know if he's spelling it with an S or a C. None of us can define or tell you what this means. It makes such little sense that Francis can't even tell you why it doesn't make sense. But again, I can't be mad at Francis. He already pissed down his own leg. So, but if you could have Francis's opinion of what in the world of boxing or combat or money or business or sport makes sense, like Francis's level of success is not remarkably...
Simon Jordan, the UK boxing commentator and former club owner, didn't mince words about the prospect of Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul, calling it stupid and ridiculous. While he acknowledges a massive financial incentive, Jordan insists the matchup is about spectacle, not legitimate competition. He emphasizes that Joshua is a two-time world heavyweight champion who has faced elite contenders and built a significant legacy, whereas Jake Paul is far from that level. Jordan argues that the fight would do nothing to enhance Joshua's legacy, while putting Jake in serious danger and undermining the integrity of heavyweight boxing.
Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul in December. What does it tell us, Simon? Does it tell us more, as I said in the introduction, about the falling star of AJ or the rising one of Jake Paul?
It tells you that there's a huge opportunity for enormous amounts of money to be generated around a fight that really has no integrity behind it in terms of as a fight, but in terms as a media spectacle and entertainment opportunity. You've got a very talented YouTuber that's built himself into a massive influence with huge following, and you've got a former two-time champion of the world that operates at a very high level of engagement. Whether he's a high level of performer anymore is a different discussion. So it becomes about how much can this fight generate, how many eyes on the prize. I mean, I spoke to his very close friend, Michael Jarman, about this very fight about 3 or 4 months ago, and he was like, oh, what do you think? I said, what difference does it make? Oh, it would potentially jeopardize his legacy. His legacy's sealed. You cannot undo the fact, whatever you think of Anthony Joshua,
it might damage it.
I don't think so. What it will do is increase his bank balance. But I don't think. I think in the great. I mean, it didn't damage Muhammad Ali's reputation to go in with a sumo wrestler, did it?
No. But after, when Joshua was at his peak, Simon, if I had said to you there and then, do you know what? Maybe in December 2025, Anthony Joshua will fight a YouTuber.
This is the entertainment business, and Anthony Joshua is an entertainer, and you can't undo the fact that he won the world heavyweight championship twice. And he fought in some great fights.
So why does he need this?
Because he's in the business of entertainment. And if an opportunity is presented to him and someone wants to say that we can monetize this to the huge levels that are potentially available, why wouldn't you? It's a walk in the park.
You see, you're not having Saturday night.
Tony Bellew, former WBC Cruiserweight World Champion and current boxing analyst, has voiced strong opposition to the proposed fight. He said, "I will not believe this until they step in the ring together," emphasizing that boxing is a noble sport with established rules and safety measures, not a spectacle designed for clicks and money. Bellew stresses that size, experience, and heavyweight power all matter, and Jake Paul simply hasn't built a foundation to face Anthony Joshua. He argues that promoters and sanctioning bodies should ensure protections for less experienced fighters like Jake, rather than expose them to unnecessary risk. Across podcasts, commentary shows, and industry media, multiple analysts have labeled a Joshua versus Jake Paul fight as extremely dangerous. They highlight the vast gaps in experience, power, ring IQ, and physicality. While Jake may believe he can win, experts point out that Joshua possesses knockout power, controls distance, sets the pace, and has navigated the full spectrum of heavyweight boxing throughout his adult career. The consensus is clear. Jake Paul would be delusional to think he could withstand Joshua's punches and survive the fight.
Unless somebody wants to kill Jake, does someone want to kill Jake Paul?
The move is bizarre, and I can't help but feel like this calculated gamble is going to go horrendously wrong.
Whoa. I think there's something there about maybe the way Americans say Anthony Joshua. I've seen it because he's not the only American. Like, there's retired boxers been calling AJ out from over there. Like, I don't think that they realize, because of what AJ was like when he performed in America against Andy Ruiz, and just generally since then, you know, he's lost a couple. I think they massively underestimate him. And I also think part of it is just Jake Paul thinking, what's the biggest fucking name I can do? What's the biggest event? What's one that I actually, and delusionally, in my opinion, think that he's got a chance of just landing a big shot on him, and he just doesn't rate AJ's chin. And it's like, yeah, but like Daniel Dubois, it's not the same, is it? What does this do to Anthony Joshua's legacy just by even taking this fight? Lawrence, you've known him for a lot of years.
To be honest, that's who I'm focused on. I don't really care about Jake Paul. I'm just thinking, you know, AJ needs to get himself back on track after that devastating defeat to Daniel Dubois. Why is he concentrating on Jake Paul? Like, he doesn't need him on his radar. He needs to be focusing on real fighters. And in terms of legacy, I mean, yeah, he's an active fighter. When your career's done, finished, have those type of fun fights. But right now, it makes zero sense to me. So it's just frustrating for me, to be totally honest.
That's the mistake that you're making, though, Loza, because you think he's still he's semi-retired. This is the movement of someone that is on his way out of the game, and you can't turn down that type of money, especially on the night's work that it's going to be. This is like he's already got generational wealth, but you can imagine how big this is going to be. And it's
Netflix, guys.
It's massive. Like, so that even I remember Eddie Hearn talking about it, and it seemed like he really wanted that fight. And it's really,
if, despite widespread advice against it, the fight between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul goes ahead, analysts insist that strict protective measures must be implemented. Suggestions include heavier gloves, a reduced number of rounds, special weight regulations, and potentially even headgear or a hand decap for Joshua. With Joshua nearly 20 kilograms heavier and far more powerful, standard matchmaking logic clearly points to a mismatch without adjustments. Even with these protections, the risk to Jake remains substantial. While no fight is ever completely safe, the danger in this scenario is exceptionally high. Many insiders argue that the only responsible course would be to delay the bout until Jake gains more experience, and Joshua has a clear competitive motivation beyond spectacle.
An exhibition with Tank to actually fighting Anthony Joshua, you know, depending on the terms. Because here's the thing, Jake Paul started boxing late. So Joshua, to me, this would be a very dangerous fight. So I do got to look at the terms, meaning, are they going 3-minute rounds? Is it a 6-rounder? Is it a 10-rounder? Is it a 12 championship round they're going to make up a belt? Like, what are the terms for this fight? Because Joshua is 6'6", brolic, an Olympic gold medalist. So that's biting off a lot. So for me, I got to first see the fight actually come into fruition, not just like, reports. Because Ring has previously reported Virgil Ortiz and Jerron Boots Ennis verbally agreed, and the deal is expected to be sign, and it gets clicks and people get hyped up, people get excited.